they have this treasure trove of practical tools that I think would be of such benefit to the church. And so kind of from that moment, that kind of changed the trajectory.
Well, hello, Lauren. Thanks so much for joining us today to talk a little bit about your event, your presentation here at Trinity on October the 16th called Addiction and Sobriety. Addiction and Sobriety, Tools for Gospel Ministry in an Addictive World. And I thought it might be helpful for me and for others to put these three questions to you. Number one, how did you get into this topic? Number two, why is this an important topic for us here and now? And thirdly, what might we expect from this day together on October the 16th? So, Lauren, how did you get into this topic of addiction and sobriety?
Yeah, that's a wonderful first question. I didn't mean to. I had been in ministry for a long time and had really joyfully sent people to 12-step fellowships. I didn't know a lot about them, but knew that we trust them. I knew that Alcoholics Anonymous was trustworthy. And so would send people there, but had never been into a room, had never experienced what it was like or what is actually happening down in our church basements. And so over the pandemic, in personal and professional ways, hit a little bit of a crisis point and really felt my powerlessness for the first time. And really felt a leading from the Holy Spirit through a bunch of different avenues to maybe try to go to a 12-step fellowship. So I showed up, it was the pandemic, over Zoom. And even over Zoom, I remember sitting in that first meeting and I was of two minds during that meeting. The first one was, I'm so glad I found this group. These are my people. I understood almost immediately that what they had on offer in this room was what met much of what I had been searching for. And so on a personal level, I was thinking, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I found this. But pretty quickly, I put on my pastor hat and was also thinking, and the way I shared is I thought, oh no, this is what the church is supposed to be doing. And the church does do it, but I see it more frequently and with more consistency in terms of 12-step fellowships developing real discipleship tools and ways to enter into the interior life, ways to engage in community and to support one another. They have this treasure trove of practical tools that I think would be of such benefit to the church. And so kind of from that moment, that kind of changed the trajectory. I continue in my fellowship. I have learned so much and they've discipled me so well. And I think part of what I'm working on, I changed my doctoral dissertation topic as a result of this. So that's what I'm looking at as I write my dissertation is how do we take these tools that are down in our basements in the 12-step fellowships that many of us are hosting, because Christian churches, particularly Anglicanism, has a historically positive and supportive relationship with 12-step fellowships. This wonderful spiritual vitality is happening downstairs, and I would love to see parts of it be brought up and utilized for the good of the church and just in the immediate for the people that are under my care. I want to see them find the freedom that I've found through using these tools.
Great. So what I'm hearing is, as it were, you discovered a treasure trove. Imagine that sort of, wooden, iron-rimmed, big chest in the basement. It's been there. It's happening. There's this treasure trove in the basement of these wonderful tools, kind of trusted discipleship tools that lead to freedom and lead to community. And your observation is, wait, these tools are in our basement. Are we using them? How can we get these tools out, learn how to use them, and kind of see the benefits of using them? So I guess the second question is, well, why now? Why in this sort of season of our cultural moment? Why in Southwest PA? Why might you be encouraging senior pastors, rectors, ministry leaders, or volunteers who care about people in addiction? Why should we be going and trying to discover this treasure chest now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we live in what many have phrased as an addictive culture. There are so many avenues available to us towards addiction and addictive behavior and substance abuse. And so we have these substances that are available to us, but we also have parts of technology that are now available to us. And we have platforms that are using the mechanics of addiction to their benefit so that more people will use them. So we have these additional forces at work that are just destroying people's lives. And we have, we certainly have statistically have people sitting in our congregations that are struggling with substance or process addictions. But beyond that, we have almost a culture of addiction that's happening. Within like the strictest parameters, the guesstimates on how many people are struggling with substance usage issues is between 40 and 50 million in our country. So about 15% of our population or so. So statistically, we have practitioners, you have people in your congregations that are struggling. But beyond that, these tools are, yes, about stopping that behavior, but they're really about the two great commandments. I mean, that's maybe the thing that took me most by surprise, was that when I read the steps themselves and I began to understand how you work them and what that looks like, I realized that all of the steps point towards love of God and love of neighbor, and restoring relationship with God and restoring relationship with neighbor, and then learning how to live out of that love on a daily basis. And so beyond kind of this critical moment as a culture that I think we're in terms of addiction, beyond that, the 12 steps is tapping into kind of historic Christian practices, but it's giving practical tools to engage with them in a different way. And so it's not the only avenue towards that kind of growth, but has been shown since it was founded that it's a reliable way to walk towards God, and the Holy Spirit uses it. And so kind of on both those fronts, I see it as really a wonderful option for parishioners and for practitioners and for really any Christian that is just interested in deepening their walk with the Lord. It is, again, this treasure trove that I'm just so excited to share.
So, no, I love that. So you have this vision of helping folks ultimately walk in step with the Spirit in restoring their relationship with God, loving their neighbors. And you identified how patterns of addiction are crippling those relationships, our relationship with God, our relationships with those around us. And I thought it was interesting you said earlier, because we're probably all assuming substance addiction, alcohol, drugs, etc. But you're saying actually there are whole other levels of addiction, smartphones, for example. I'm sometimes conscious if I'm driving along and I see the lights ahead of me go orange, I'm already reaching for my phone to like distract myself while I'm waiting. That's a kind of an addictive pattern.
Yes.
So you're saying this treasure trove doesn't apply just to substance addictions. There may be some tools and things we can learn for all kinds of addictive behavior that ultimately are sabotaging our ability to love God and our neighbor. So
yeah.
If I might ask then the third question, so in overview, what should we expect from this day? So it's a day together, Wednesday, October the 16th. Who are you hoping is going to be there, and what should they expect from this day?
Yeah, when I was asked to do this and I began envisioning, I was thinking practitioners. I was thinking other pastors, other leaders, lay leadership. But as I've developed out what we're going to do that day, I realized this is a day for any Christian, because we're a priesthood of all believers. We are all people that are called to disciple others. That is not a special role. That's just for people with collars on. And so if anybody is interested, either for your own spiritual benefit or for the spiritual benefit of others that you minister to and love and care for, if you're interested in having kind of an additional set of tools to use, and then this could be for you. And I would love to have, ideally, people from kind of both those categories would be really lovely. So my hope is to spend the morning talking a little bit, just grounding ourselves in what this is. I brought my, copy. These are floating around churches, and, people have seen these being carried around. This is kind of the manual for the 12-step fellowships. And so to dig into, how did the 12 steps start, and particularly focus on the Christian roots so that we can begin to draw parallels that I think are there between some of our classical spiritual disciplines. So just want to trace like how they came about, and so we can ground them in a place. And then I also would like to begin to think about kind of a philosophy of addiction, a theology of addiction, really. What is addiction and how does it apply to sin issues in our life? How synonymous are those terms? We can talk about that and think about, what are the ways that people are in bondage? Because addicts, at their worst, are only showing us what's happening on the inside of all of us. They're just doing it externally. And to realize that we are all spiritually impoverished without the intervention of the Lord, and to come to that place of powerlessness is, I think, the key to freedom, not just from kind of the classical addictions, but it's a pathway towards greater and greater relationship with the Lord. So that's what I hope to do in the morning. The afternoon, I hope to walk through the 12 steps and actually hand out and provide you with real and practical tools that you can use for yourself, that you can take to your congregations, that you can take anywhere and try them out and see if they work. And I'll give some resources in. Maybe you sit and you realize, I really could actually use a 12-step fellowship, or I'm interested in having a group like this at my church. Those are all things that we can talk about. My goal for the day is just to bless and equip everybody that comes in the same way that I have been blessed and equipped by these steps.
Thank you. Great. So if you watch this video and you'd like to join us, to go to the website. It's tas.edu/pastoral. So that's Trinity Anglican Seminary, tas.edu/pastoral, to learn more and to register. And we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks so much, Lauren.
Thank you so much, Alex.